Stephanie.
And I'm Summer.
And you're listening to Broke and Broken.
Because we're both.
The podcast about living your best life by getting real.
Welcome back, broken people. Our guest on the show today will be Valarie Lambert. She's a mom, an activist, and an academic. She's also a citizen of the same nation as I am, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Now, Stephanie, you and I haven't given much background about ourselves to our listeners, but we're both Indigenous women, so of course that gives us a different perspective on life and things as most people.
Yes.
Definitely, right?
Absolutely.
So when I interviewed Valarie, I went there expecting to talk about one thing, but it turned into something else, like tends to happen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing in life ever goes as planned, but that's great. So I went actually into thinking we were going to talk about her activism, and what we ended up talking about was more personal and about relationships and things. And so a big portion of our conversation was about polyamory or non-monogamy.
Uh-huh.
And of course, us being Indigenous in our ways, you know, we've got a lot more exposure to non-monogamous relationships and accepting of those sort of family dynamics and makeup than a lot of Americans. So
it's true. We have different worldviews. We have different, historical and family and clan perspectives.
True. So can you tell us, give me some of your thoughts about your experiences with poly relationships?
I grew up in Oklahoma, and, I spent time, of course, with my family. I spent time with a lot of Christianized people. And I say Christianized. I am a believer as well, but my life and my experience has been very different from what is normative for European descendants. And I say that kind of with a little bit of a laugh because my mom is German. I'm actually a dual national and a German citizen as well. But in the United States, with the British colonial structure that came in, it was very patriarchal. Now, in my family of origin, from my dad's side of the family, one of my grandfathers had 3 wives. They were sisters, which is pretty normative, in my experience at least, in tribal marriages, because sisters get along better. So, but in any case, one of my great-grandfathers, he did have 3 wives. They were all sisters. He married Chickasaws, and, it's one of the reasons why I always joke that I can't ever marry a Chickasaw, because I typically find that we are related.
Related to all of them?
To all of them. It's rare to find a Chickasaw that does not have, the same lineage as I carry through that side, and so that can be a bit problematic.
See, I don't mind sharing a man, but I won't share with my sister. Those are my solid lines. That's my boundary. Like, no, not my sister.
So you didn't learn to share as a child. You can't share as an adult, in other words?
I don't mind sharing a man. I think the difference is, and it's not just biological sister. Like, I love you, honey. You're my sister. I am not sharing a man with you. And
I think that's good. That's a good boundary. I'm not sharing a man with you either, so we're good to go.
Right? I think what it is I value my relationships with my sisters more than with a lover. So I am not going to risk messing up my sister relationships by getting a man involved.
So, well, what is that saying? A girlfriend is forever, and some people don't have that same experience with marriage. So,
absolutely.
I understand where you're coming from.
That's what my auntie taught me. She said, "Are your sisters, your friends are your family that life gives you, that biology didn't, and those are the lifelong relationships." She always told me, "Naholo people," which is our word for non-natives, people who believe differently than us, who have a different worldview, that they have it backwards when they say everything that your spouse or your lover, it's all the same word in our language. We don't have a differentiation. You're either together or you're not. Our word for husband, boyfriend, all of that's the same. It's literally your man.
Yes. And that's what I called my husband as well.
Exactly.
And that's all I had to say, my hatak, and everybody knew who he was and what his role was in my my life just based on those words. And, my Greek name that I used for him as well, it was just man, because he was mine.
Right, which is kind of funny. I saw a friend, and she's a native too, announcing and like falling all over herself about getting engaged the other day. And I'm like, okay, why are you so excited about being white people married to us? He's already your husband, so okay.
Well,
great. I don't know, but
it is very different. It's very different. What partnerships, what family, what those relationships look like, and so I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit about what our family structures look like, and how we keep those things in mind. You and I have talked quite a bit about family and having children and what that looks like as well. For people who know their clan, it's kind of those who've lost their clans, and that's often the case for families due to boarding schools,
right.
and people not wanting to talk about that part of their life because they didn't want their children to suffer the discrimination that was so commonplace.
Well, and not just discrimination, literal threats to their lives. I know.
Absolutely.
When I asked about our clan, I'm one of those who don't know my clan, because when I asked about it, she literally cried and said, I can't tell you because you're a child and you might tell someone, and if the church finds out we're talking about it, they can tear our entire family apart. And she was literally afraid for our lives because she had been through boarding school, and her and her siblings had been through boarding school, and they were traumatized for their entire lives because of the experiences they had there.
That's heartbreaking, and it's I'm thankful that you had that close relationship with your aunties who taught you as much as they did, and far more than what many people even have the privilege to know. I don't want to go into specifics. We
right.
know our house and our clan and my family, and it's when I have an interest in someone or they have an interest in me, that's one of the first things you talk about. Who's your family?
Who are your
what's
people?
Your clan? who are your relatives? Because we're really big families. I mean, you can imagine one husband, 3 wives, how many children there were. And once those grandkids started then marrying,
it multiplies very fast.
It multiplies very quickly. So, and I have talked about we go back 4 generations. So,
right.
Who are your parents? Who are your grandparents? Who are your great grandparents? And who are your great great grandparents?
Right.
So, it's an important thing. It's an important thing for us to do.
And I don't want listeners who aren't familiar with our tribes, at least. Of course, every culture is distinct and different, so it's different for everybody. But in our case, I don't want them to get the wrong idea and think it's very patriarchal or what have you, that only the men could have multiple wives.
Yes.
In our case, at least in Choctaws, I'll only speak for my people, but in our case, historically, prior to invasion and
colonization
and the oppressive reach of the church, and started the shaming of our women, prior to that we were allowed to have multiple men as well, and it has carried on through the generations. It's just been much more hidden in recent generations, and even the other way around. Like my grandfather's father had 2 wives. He had my grandmother, my Sapotni, who lived on one house, and then the other wife lived on the other side of the allotment. So there were 2 wives, and that was done openly. But then in my grandfather's generation, which would have been the second boarding school generation, and since then, it's mostly been hidden. Almost every man in my family have had multiple women, and everybody knows it, but everybody pretends they don't, because it's not
socially acceptable. It's one of the things that it's one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy, because we'll have people will say that's not Christian.
Yes.
I'm like, but your pastor solicited a prostitute. Come on, let's stop.
Which I completely support their right to do, as long as she was consenting. As long as the sex worker is consenting and happy to do it, I'm fine with that as well.
Well, see, I think his woman's got to agree. So.
Well, that's between them. That's between them. That's not my business.
That is between them, exactly.
I'm not going to even ask. That's not my business. But you're right. I mean, as you know, I spent 4 years involved with a man as his second. I didn't like to refer to myself as second wife. His wife, his first wife, she is the one who called me that.
So what did you call yourself? How did you?
It varied depending on what was happening. But because there was all the shame, and he is a Christian as well, and so he was afraid of the judgment, and so we were never open, fully public. People who were close to us knew. Several people figured it out. A lot of people who knew all three of us just assumed he and I were having a quote affair. In fact, that's how a few of the people who initially knew found out, because they confronted they confronted one of us, and we're like, okay, so
we need to have a talk with y'all. So
right. But we weren't open, and that was part of the problem, and that caused a lot of stress, a lot of strain, and it caused a lot of tension within the situation. So I don't think that the hiding is a good thing. I would not be second again without it being open. I don't mind being poly, but yeah, I'm not going to be willing to say I'm going to be with just you and nobody else other than the two of you if it's not open, because that dynamic did not work well.
Yes.
And ultimately, I think it's what contributed to the end,
the breakdown of the relationship.
Exactly. Yes. But I do think a lot of that is due to the shame and the religious shame that's about it. In fact, he's the Plains tribe, so their outlook on it's very different.
People practicing.
But it's been illegal in those tribes. The U.S. government actually passed laws, making them practicing polygamy to be illegal. So, that makes things more complicated too, and I think it makes the shame deeper in their communities, and so it's something that you don't talk about, even though a lot of them do it. But
I don't think the government has any role involving itself in marriage, period.
I agree, but in that particular situation, it was just like the allotments were for us. It was a deliberate attack on breaking up the families and making it harder. That way they couldn't oppose the federal government. I don't think they really didn't care about the structure. They didn't really care that they had multiple wives. It was more about separating them physically and making sure that they couldn't work together and have their family unit. But yeah, I don't know what I called myself. He teased me about being second wife. I told him I couldn't be wife because in their ways you have to when they would take a captive, the captive could become part of them if they earned their spot, but you had to assimilate. And I said, Choctaw women don't assimilate, so I can never be your wife.
No, we don't. Not happening. Not well. And
so I usually call myself his side girl.
Say, right. Well, and my Ishki would tell me, you cannot marry a Plains Indian either. That's not going to work.
I was not warned about that until after this. And I had also for a minute and a half dated somebody from a different Plains tribe, and that's what and nobody told me till after the fact, and they're like, don't date west of I-35 in Indian country if you're from a southeastern tribe, because we're not compatible with the Plains tribes.
Very compatible. And
the cultures are too different.
It's so ironic, when you talk to people who have zero experience with any communities, any tribes whatsoever, they just collectively say Indians. They have zero idea that there are over 600 separate and distinct nations with entirely different languages, customs, and ways, and family structures, and
our cultures are so different.
Absolutely, and I know for everyone who's raised within their community, it's really difficult because they want to assume that Lakota, Dakota is what it is to be an Indian, because that's what they've seen most plainly represented on television. But that's not got anything to do with you or me or most Indigenous people throughout this country. So they didn't even get their imitations right. So it's a very different experience.
So would you rather be first wife or second wife, Stephanie?
Or
would you rather have more than one husband?
I could never have more than one husband. I'm a serial monogamist, but I did have a discussion with my husband, because I explained to him, of course you met him, and and his eyes got really big, and he just shook his head, and he said, there ain't no way I could do it to you.
But the thing, what you have to remember, they're in separate houses. That's part of our way. They're in separate houses. So the beauty of it is, when you get tired of him, you can send him to her. It's time for you to go over there. And then you don't have all the work. You only have half the workload. All right, so let's move on to our guest. We'll go on to Valarie, and then after everything wraps up, we're going to take Stephanie out and find her a couple of husbands so that we can go away.
Just one good one.
Well, two halfway good ones, does that work out? I mean, the math is there.
I don't know, Summer. I think I'm going to stick to my monogamous ways.
Okay, fine. Today's guest is Valarie Lambert. So thank you for being with us today, Valarie.
Thank you for having me.
So when we first met, we were both speaking at this event about violence against Indigenous women. And I spoke mostly about my experience as a survivor of sexual assault, which I haven't actually, I don't think, gone into on the podcast, but I'm sure it'll become relevant at some point, and I will. And you were speaking about surviving domestic violence. So can you tell us a little more about that and the activism work you've done in the area?
So that was probably when I first started speaking publicly about it. I was with him for 5 months, but we were friends, like best friends, for 12 years. And then I made the mistake of thinking it should be something different because, well, that sounds like I'm victim blaming myself. I try to avoid that kind of talk, but there are things that I recognize now that I'm like, I shouldn't have ever, that was silly. But we underestimate love and all that jazz, and so we were together 5 months. He violently assaulted me several times. The last time was very significant. The second time I told my daughter because I knew that I wouldn't allow her to think for too long that this was a okay thing.
How old was she at the time?
She was 2011. She just turned 20. She was 13.
Okay.
13. Yeah, just turned 13. She turned 13 while we were together. We escaped that. The last time he assaulted me, he could have killed me, and it was my first full-time semester at OU, and so he destroyed all of my school books and all my work clothes and all my everything and my laptop and my bartending stuff and everything, and it was 6 weeks until finals. And so we moved. We silently started. I mean, I told him he had to leave my house. It was my house, so I was in a different situation financially. I was the one that worked. He did not. Kind of situation.
Which helps then, as opposed to when you're
it
financially.
For sure helps, but as far as information being out there, there's no information about how to get someone out of limited information about. There's limited survivors that are like, it was different. Like I had to figure out how to get him out of my home, and that was difficult. But I didn't call the police, which was, I think, probably that's what my thesis and my undergrad work really centered on, was women who don't call the police. Because for various reasons. And so instead of, I don't know, I dealt with it, but I also dove into it academically. It was at the beginning of my academic career, and I just kind of started researching.
This is how you analyze everything.
Everything, right. Everything. Like research and attack, wrote like a 40-page thesis, interviewed 8 or 9 women. Yeah, but it was the stories, it was the connectedness, it was the feeling like it's a shitty... Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
No, I curse frequently on this.
It's a shitty club. No one wants to be a part of it. But when you are around someone that there's this immediate kind of different sisterhood, and you feel each other, because even when you're trained, and I'm not taking away from people that are advocates in the community, but if you have never been there,
it's very different.
You do not understand. So so those were some of our experiences, and we're almost 7 years removed from that now.
So you mentioned looking back and seeing in hindsight decisions you wish you had made differently. So does that change the way that you go about dating and things now?
I know I'll never be the same. Yeah, I'll never be the same. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but also in a good way too. Like there was a lot of decisions that I made back in those days that are different than I should be making, and he was the height of it. He wasn't the only. He was the worst.
Fair enough.
You know. So yeah.
So it changed who you are.
Oh yeah, I don't like to give him, like, sometimes I'm like, but you know what I mean? Sometimes,
I do.
Sometimes I'm like, ew, there's a fine line there, because like I remember I was in the beginning of a weight loss journey too when me and him were together.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, yes. And so it was like beginning, and I remember one time we were sitting there and he said, well, at least this stress is doing some good. And I was like, oh no, motherfucker. I'm running at 260 pounds. No. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I remember one time I was sitting there and me telling him, like, I'll be sitting on a boat one day from this. You're always going to be doing the same things.
Right.
But I'm going to use this, and I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to normalize whatever I can, however I can, and maybe write a book one day. We'll see.
Right.
I don't know. But you meant this for evil.
Right.
Or right. My mom always said, you meant this for evil. I don't know if it's in the Bible or just my mama. I give her credit for stuff sometimes, so I don't know.
Either way.
But she always said, what you meant for evil, God meant for good.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, I was drowning. Sometimes you just have to drown. So,
right.
Yeah,
just have
for
to
sure.
figure it out. Okay, so you, I want to say recently, but it seems like it hasn't been that. Time gets away from me. You're co-founder of Oklahoma Sisters in Solidarity.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about that, what you do, how it started?
So, I've been an activist a long time. I don't know. I've had this like vague, I want to do this with my life. I want to make Oklahoma better for women and girls.
Okay.
Oklahoma is super not good. In a lot of ways, I love it. It's my home.
Such an understatement.
Right. I'm trying to be right. It's my home. This is where my land is. This is where my people are. Like, but there's some things that need to happen.
Definitely. Be fixed.
I don't know. After I did a lot of things solo and just in different capacities. And after the election of Donald Trump, I was in grief in a way that I've never been from something that I didn't personally like, little death, or affectedness like that. And so the day after, I think the 9th, I made I took it old school. I threw a old school feminist consciousness raising in my home, invited people to come into my home and sit and talk about what we felt and what we do next and what the fuck, man. Like, where do we go? What do we do? And I met Vicky Lavastida, Vicky Moore. She was I think she was the only person I didn't physically know prior that came.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she was something I needed, and I was something she needed, and she took my chaos and my, this is the things I want to do, and I don't know, and I just want to do all the things, and she was like, we can do all the things.
That's
and
good.
Yeah,
Find
you
your
need
balance.
that. Right. You need that. And so we just formed an alliance, and she pulled me in to do something for one of the Pantsuit Nation had a workshop.
Okay.
And she knew I had teaching experience, so she pulled me in, and I don't know, one thing led to another, and we were like, let's do something different. And so we did. Last year was a really good year for us. We're not a nonprofit. I don't want to be a nonprofit. I'm not at a phase in my life where I want people telling me how to do my stuff right now. I've got enough things to do, and so it is just me and Vicky. It all is just grassroots. It all is just and there's been fluctuations, life happens and
right.
stuff. And I failed at Pride this year. I didn't raise money for us to walk. It felt horrible. I've also been going through some stuff in the last 8 months, and I have to. So, Summer, you have to be where you're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've done what I can. And we always hold ourselves to these. Well, you're a strong woman.
We're hypercritical of ourselves.
Yeah, these
even
ridiculous
when it's not
standards, right?
We
Like
do.
these ridiculous standards.
That's what I was thinking about on the drive over here. About how most of the time I have no idea what I'm doing. But what's most important is that you just keep doing it.
You just throw shit out there and see what sticks.
Something will work, and whatever doesn't, you adjust
you
and
learn.
you keep moving,
Yep.
and you just stay on the hustle, and eventually
Yep.
things will
You do.
work out.
Yep. And if you can pull any people into that, that's how change has always been made. You know what I mean? People that are like-minded.
Right. And I know I've spoken on one of y'all's panels.
Yes,
which was
so
great.
cool.
And that's
yes,
how
my first one.
Oh, that was the first one.
I think so.
It was, what was
Yes.
that? International Women's Day.
It was
or
International
something?
Women's Day, yes. Talking to Oklahoma activists, yes.
That was really amazing. I met wonderful people there. So I think you're making more of a difference than you realize, because you're networking people, and there's been a lot come from those things. So.
Yeah, no, it was amazing, and I was honored that you agreed to do it.
Oh, I appreciate being asked. Any chance I can help in any way, I'm always there.
Right.
Sleep is optional. Sleep when I'm dead. I just feel like the need's so great. Like anytime that I can help in any way, I'm just trying to do it, or recruiting other people.
Right.
Like, come help.
That's what it is, though,
Seriously,
right?
look at the problems.
Right.
Come help.
Right. Seriously, we're drowning. You know. Right.
And
But
I
that's
feel like
what it
there's
is.
weights being tied to us continually too.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But the more that there are more of us there are, and even so, my mama went to the rally yesterday.
Did she?
Yeah, she did, and
I met your
I had
mom
to work.
at that panel.
Yeah,
actually.
the panel.
I love
Yeah,
her.
my mama. She was like, I feel like I need to. She's like, I don't understand. I feel like this is a thing, and I have to. And I was so proud of her because she represented us. You know what I mean? I had to go to work, and people have different schedules. We also forget that.
Right.
That I think, no, we might not, but a lot of people forget that people have to work. You know what I mean? And so. But she did, and I was so proud of her for going and doing that. Like, when I told her, I was like, she said how many people were there, and I said, it's more important to be one of 50 than it is to be one of 100,000. You know what I mean? Like, it's important to show up. And I'm not saying there were 50 people. I have no idea, but I was just.
I wasn't there.
I think it was actually hundreds, but
I can't do rallies.
Yeah.
I'm
anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't do the crowds.
Yeah.
I can't do
Yeah.
the anxiety.
Everybody has something they can do, right?
I used to try, and I used to make myself like I did when there was the Yes All Daughters rally here in Norman and things like that, and it's too much. I can't handle it. I'm in bed for 3 days.
Yeah.
So I help organize, I get supplies, and then I send people. I'm like, guys, I can't anymore. I've reached a point in my life where I'm like, no, I have to be able to take care of myself and my kids, and I cannot do that.
Right.
So you guys who don't have the same problem I do, who can manage this, y'all go do this, and I'll be here with whatever I can do. So.
Well, and you have to know what kind of activist you are. I know that I recognized that years ago when we organized. My daughter actually organized a, the AHA, the Abolish Abortion people that compare abortions to slavery and the Holocaust. With their missed fetuses. The miscarried fetuses. Those are not abortion pictures. But yeah, so my daughter did that, and I helped her, because when you tell your kid her whole life, you fucking stand.
Right.
You stand whether you stand alone, you stand for what's right, and it doesn't matter who thinks what. And when you tell them that their whole life, and they're like, hey mama, what are we gonna do?
You gotta
stand, you gotta show. But I was there, and these young people, those guys stand and yell, and they engage, and I can't deal with the engagement. You're not gonna be in my ear telling me stuff, because I'm gonna, I'm not.
There will be confrontation.
I'm professional, but I'm Southside. We can talk, you know what I mean? And it was bad, but these kids, these young people were like, we can do it. And I was on one side, and they went over and they held blankets up, and they could stand there, and these people were engaging with them. And I told my daughter, I said, you have to know what you can do. I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I'm going to turn around and tell you where you can put your misinformation.
Right.
That's a nice way to say it.
Restraints,
right, absolutely not. And I have a huge intolerance for intolerance.
Yes.
I'm so not a judgmental person, but when you come at me with misinformation and thinking you're at a higher level because you're, I don't know, whatever, you're better or whatever, then no.
I'm judging you.
I'm judging you. Totally judging you. Looking and judging.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned Pride. So
yay, gay Christmas.
Gay Christmas.
Woohoo!
Okay, so on Sunday, which is the day the parade is, which is why I never get to go to Pride on Sunday because there's too many people.
Yes.
So I always go on Saturday, Saturday.
Yeah,
I didn't go at all this year, but last year it was Saturday morning because there's fewer people.
Yeah, for sure.
I also got in trouble for taking my kid. His dad was not happy.
Oh, that's silly. It's a family-friendly place. People have such misinformation about what Pride is. I mean,
he's very
yeah, that's problematic. Oh, that's problematic.
At the time I was also in a polyamorous relationship with a man and a woman, and that was a horrible thing. he was fine with her being around our son until he found out we were in a relationship, and then it was a big issue.
Well, of course, because until it takes when it comes from the fantasy world of what a man thinks.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But in any event,
we can definitely we can visit about that for a minute too. I have some things to say.
Because there's also another comment someone made to me the other day about this that I want to run by you to get your response.
Okay.
It's a common one. So. Okay. But I wanted to hit this. I really loved this Facebook post that you made about pride itself.
Okay.
So if I can get you to kind of read that and then elaborate on it for us. Okay.
So what some of y'all don't get about pride, it's the one space of the year where I can be with a woman in the middle of whatever, and the odds of there being some asshat who A, thinks I'm a porn movie come to life, B, has a warped version of the afterlife, C, is so threatened by the fact that his golden penis isn't required somewhere that he becomes violent, or D, some fucked up combo of all three is reduced by like a lot. We walk in the hetero, cis world every day, and it's not all rainbows and butterflies. There are people that think we shouldn't be alive. It's fucking dangerous. Yes, we have come a long way, but you are wrong to think that being queer is safe in 2018. It is safer. There's a difference. Pride is our world. It's our people. It's normal. We welcome you there, but remember we're the, quote, normal ones here. Don't be a douche. And baby gays, not everyone is your friend. Adopt a gay big sister or brother. It's your community, and hydrate. Happy Pride, y'all.
Oh, definitely hydrate, because it is so hot out
there. It is, a lot of the times. It can't be all booze and fun, right? You gotta drink some water.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Okay. There was so much there, but I really loved it. Okay, so thinks I'm a porn movie come to life. Let's go there.
So, okay, let's go there. So, oftentimes, men like the ideal of two women being together. Well, sure, it's hot, right?
Yes, it is.
It's super hot. But then but I'm not your porn movie come together.
You're not? I'm
You're
not their object?
Right. No, I'm not your object. She's not your object.
I just don't know what to think about
Right. Is that not crazy? And I have gotten violent reactions from this. And so, like, it's, that's definitely a thing. Like, and it's usually, they're very homophobic, right? So, like,
that's what I don't understand. How you can be homophobic, like, be aroused by lesbian.
Yeah, like asshat, douche.
It makes me wonder if they're in that group that's so homophobic because they have that internalized hatred of their own homoerotic. I don't know. I have no way to scientifically study that, but that's my suspicion usually.
But there are studies that show that like only 1.5% of people really fall on the very extreme. Sexuality is fluid.
Absolutely. I
just
believe
like
most
anything
people
else, they're in the middle, right? So like I'm 97% gay, but there is 3% of me that is tapped into.
How do you quantify
by
that? Just like an algorithm.
So I like sex with women better.
Fair enough.
It's more. So people are gonna be like, what the fuck? But like heterosexual sex is centered around the penis, very much so. So it's very much penis in the vagina, good times, which is good times. The 3% of me agrees with that statement.
Right, loves that part.
Right, but with lesbian sex, there is no one way.
Right.
So like all the ways are possible, and I'm just an all the ways kind of person. And so
convincing men to try a lot of those things doesn't work because they're very
it's very penis centered, and I can get that. Like, and there's another misconception, like we like penetration. Like people that are like, why like gay women like that? Yes.
You really don't think that?
No. Yes, this has been a thing. Yes, like it's such a thing, and I'm just like, wow. What do you think? Yeah, so there's a lot going on there, you know what I mean? And so, like, I'm polyamorous, exploring ethically non-monogamous. I am exploring this.
Let's define ethically non-monogamous.
Okay, I know we didn't unpack that very much.
Go ahead. We can go back. I'm very ADD. It's fine.
Oh, good, because I'm 100 different thousand ways. So, I've always been pretty anti-relationship. Like, I'm single. I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. This is my house you're sitting in. It's my kid. I raised her. Like, we're good. You know what I mean? Right. It's my car. Like, I have my own shit. I do my own thing. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Which I call just being grown. But
right,
yes.
I am. I'm grown, right? And so I've always had this adverse towards, like, I think marriage is a good theory, but I'm not about property. And if you don't recognize, like, the patriarchy in marriage and how you became your father's property, like, I have some issues with marriage.
Which is the whole name change.
Yeah, I'm not changing my fucking name,
yes.
right? So, like, there's some things there. But I definitely don't... See, that got me all started because now we're talking marriage.
Okay,
and I'm like, so, like, I've always been very much, I'm single, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm a very sexual person, I'm going to do what I want. And I can, I'm grown.
Right.
And women are sexual beings, and that's okay too. I met a woman last year that I felt her energy before I knew her fucking name. And I have felt this
That's
way
always amazing.
until it's gone, and then it's fucking devastating.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? Like,
those highs and lows.
or even if it ever never does go away, it's never gone. I mean, we've been broken up for a while. Anyways, but she's married, and so I was willing to explore this. And what's interesting and weird about it, it's making me more relationshipy. Like, before, I would just be like, look, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. And now I'm like, okay, we should have some basic kind of, you know what I mean? Non-monogamy doesn't mean you do whatever the fuck you want. I have hard boundaries, like, as in...
What are your boundaries?
Oh, like, my friends, my family.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be with them, have fun. You won't be with me. You know what I mean? Like, that's a hard boundary
my boundaries
for me.
too.
Yes,
like,
it's a good boundary.
I have no problem sharing, but I'm not sharing you with my sister.
Right.
This is just a
I mean,
boundary
we're
have.
not. No, like, I'm not doing that. So that's definitely one of them.
How early do you disclose your rules? Is this something you talk about with everybody you go out with? I
don't really. People come at me a lot more than I like, actually. Like, I have the random creepos be like, oh my god, I just think we were really meant and we should be together and we should get to know each other. I really dig you. No, you've seen a fucking picture of me.
Right.
Or you've, seen a post or whatever. No, you don't fucking know me. You don't know anything about me at all. No, we're not anything. And so people get on my nerves as much as I love them, you know what I mean? So, like, no, I disclose it pretty quickly. Okay. So, like, I'm queer. Mm-hmm. I am non-monogamous. These are things I'm not going to change. But I do non-monogamy differently. Mine has evolved a little bit. Okay. There's some misconceptions that people have in general. Okay. Like, that non-monogamy usually is about a man wanting to...
Multiple women.
Right. So in the research I've done, both personally
which is fair.
and...
I've been in that arrangement before.
Right, for sure. And
not my preferred arrangement.
Right. Right. Who's not
I prefer to have multiple men, but you know.
You know, right. But so there's that ideal, but then, but in reality and in my research, personal and academically, because, you know, we study stuff, it's actually...
What is it about our personalities that make us do
like,
that?
I need to read some stuff about this.
Everything.
Yes, I need to overanalyze this. But in my research, it's more about a woman missing women, being in a heterosexual relationship for years and missing, and not in every situation, but in many that I've seen. And there's this primary relationship, right? Because you build a life with someone. That's what our society teaches us to do.
Right.
I've never bought into that at all in any form. And
I did. I was married. I was with him for 13 years.
Yeah, gosh.
And then I found once I had, but I never bought into that you have to get everything for one person. Right, and so I found that I don't, because I have strong relationships and they're all with women in my life, you know, that I don't feel the need to necessarily have I don't like to use the word traditional,
but it
typical
is a thing.
relationship with a man.
Right.
I'm okay with having casual relationships, or I don't want a man to come in and be... I definitely don't. He can't be the man of the house. I'm a Choctaw woman. We don't do that.
Right. Amen, sister. House. Me too. Right. This is my shit.
This
See?
is my house. When you leave, you'll take your shit with you.
Right.
But everything in here is mine. These are my kids. You're not there. You're not.
Right.
You don't get to say. And so I don't feel like I'm missing anything. And I think that's part of it. Is if we have these strong relationships where we're getting, you know, all this emotional support, fulfillment, we don't really feel that void. I don't think.
I think that people, it's a freedom thing too. Like I'm always gonna be my own primary.
Okay.
Like, so like
That's an
where
interesting way to put it,
I don't
yeah.
like hierarchies in relationships, but I understand why people in polyamorous need those hierarchies, right? Because you're
Right.
like, you know what I mean? People, that's the thing. But I'm in a different phase of my life. Like, I'm an empty nester. I'm 38. Like, you know, I've been an empty nester for 2 years. Like, I went from being a 17-year-old kid in my mama's house to being a mama. And I want to do, I like the freedom, the same things that bother me about polyamory still bother me about polyamory.
What is that? What bother you?
I'm super jealous. I'm super
Oh,
possessive.
really?
This is my house and my friends and my people and my stuff and mine. I am those birds on Finding Nemo, mine. Yes. But then also simultaneously, because I'm this very walking contradiction, I recognize that we need to do what we, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
people are like, so it's making me work on things, and I think that it's an interesting route. I did not give it up when I'm not giving it up. I think that I'm going to continue to work on the things that bother me about it. Excuse me. And you make it up as you go along.
Yes,
So
definitely.
it's all about communication, and if things kind of pop up and you figure them out, or you don't, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so so that's my stance on that, and I think that I don't know. I have limited experience in that because I have limited relationship experience because
Okay.
I've always just been I'm just single. I'm a single person, and I still am. I mean, so.
So if you're being single and you've got, you know, people you're seeing or having sex with or whatever, do you guys ever have that conversation? Like, do you, I guess, the phrase ethical non-monogamy,
Yes.
I hear a lot of
Okay.
debates
Right.
about what's required in that. And some people think you're supposed to disclose right up front, you're not the only person I'm having sex with or anything like that. My stance has always been, if you don't ask me that question, I'm not obligated to answer it as long as I'm being safe with everybody.
Right, you gotta be safe.
So, I
That's
don't
a
know,
rule.
where's the line there?
So for sure safety is always a concern. And like, if I was to have sex with a random person, I'm not going to call somebody and ask. I've been seeing someone for a few months, and she's cool, and she's now exploring non-monogamy because she's into somebody that's non-monogamous, the same as, you know what I mean? Like, it'll make you explore that. And I would definitely tell her before I went out with someone, like, she knows that I have conversations with, I mean, there's certain people I'm never giving up, you know what I mean? I talk to my ex, I have a baby mama, I have, you know what I mean? I have people that I'm not going to explain or answer to, but I think that there's a certain amount of respect that comes to that table. So no, I don't have to disclose to her if I want to go out with someone, because I'm fucking grown and I'm going to do what I want. As a matter of respect, I would, if I was going to go on a date, sure, I would tell her for sure, because I would want that done for me, you know what I mean? So like,
Do you feel like you have to tell the person that you're going on a date with, say, if maybe you don't even know them that well, do you feel like you're obligated to tell them
Straight
that you
up.
have a relationship with her?
I mean, we're not together. I don't want a girlfriend. It's weird. She's definitely my lover, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm pretty upfront out the gate because you should know what you're getting into. Like, I'm never gonna be, you can't be someone's everything. I don't fucking want to be. You know what I mean?
It's not reasonable.
And I'm not gonna pretend to be someone I'm not. So like, for years after Back to the Pride, for years, not the first female lover I had, but the first woman that just ever. There's been two, and the first one rocked my fucking world the same as at 22 as the one did at 36. We were together off and on for 7 years, but back then it was a different time, right? Like, in Oklahoma, like, these baby gays, and they're precious with their I am who I am at 14, and I love it for them.
But it's very different.
It's different, and I'm like, super different. And
I don't know anybody when we were young that felt safe coming out at that age.
No, it was a weird evolution. I can remember I was 5. Her name was Kelly. She was short and thick and had long, like, I loved her so much. You know what I mean? I had a huge crush on her. I didn't really know what that meant, but but I did forever, and I still love.
Sweet.
I know, so crazy. And then it was this thing of like, oh, sex is cool with me. It was an evolution. I've written something about it, but I haven't shared it anywhere yet because like it was an evolution, and I started where I was comfortable. I started sleeping with my homegirls. You know what I mean? You go where you're comfortable, and so But this woman rocked my world. I fell in love with a woman, which I was not prepared to do.
Are we ever really prepared to fall in love?
I guess not, right?
I think it's just our brain's way of playing tricks on us.
Maybe so. It's a lot, yeah.
It'll mess up your life.
It's a lot, and that was a long time, and there wasn't I wasn't involved in the community. I think that's why it seems like maybe I've come out again as an adult, like because my aunt Essie died in the May 3rd tornado here in Moore. And I was 19. My daughter was 11, and literally our worlds were turned upside down.
Was that long ago?
Yes, it was that long ago.
I remember. Yes. I was in Norman that night.
Yes,
I lived in Norman at that time.
Yeah, it was. It changed our. I mean, it was just. It's one. There's moments in your life that are befores and afters, and that fucking affects us to forever because she was important, and it was important. But after she died, it went from. I guess if I was in jail. And there was no one to have sex with, I would probably have sex with a woman.
If I was in jail.
Right? Like, I'm like trying to go to jail, so no, I'm just kidding.
Well,
back then, right? Yeah, we didn't, you weren't out. There was no community. And so it went from that to being like, life is fucking short.
I'm going to be happy.
I'm going to do I'm going to be who I am. And so, so it went from that. And then after my first love, woman, female, whatever, she scarred me. Men have tried to kill me. Women have fucked me up on a whole different level. I wish I was totally 97 straight, 3% gay. That would be great, but I'm not, and whatever. I love y'all, but like, fuck, man, y'all fuck me up. And so it did traumatize me a little bit. Like, she traumatized me. You know what I mean? We were together 7 years, and it fucking traumatized me.
Right.
I love her still to this day. I still dream about her and shit, but like, she traumatized me. And so then I dated, in quotes, men for a long time, and then I would just sleep with a woman on occasion. And then I was like, damn, what was that? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on there? And, but yeah, no, I'm pretty gay. And, like, I just, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. And I don't need anybody to be like, oh, well, you don't, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're not gay. There's this, this person, like, whatever. What is that? And I'm like, that's none of your motherfucking business.
Right. I
like, you don't get to identify me.
I don't understand why people think they should do that.
No.
I've been having that because there's been a lot of people asking me, because I've been talking more openly about like being poly.
Everything. Cheers to that.
I've only had one relationship with a woman, right? And of course there was a man involved there too, so which was a whole.
That's not the fun way to do it.
Well, there was us.
No judgment.
There was with both. There was separate. We had separate relationships and then together too. But
right.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways.
I haven't been in a hurry. I haven't been in a hurry to date another woman because
it's
she
hard.
was. Yeah. When that ended, there was a lot of. I realized there was a lot of petty and a lot of jealousy and a lot of triangulation that she was doing, and it was pretty cruel the way things ended with her. And so I haven't been in a hurry, but that's not really anything about. Who I want to be with. It's just recovering from
there's a recovery period. There's a recovery time. When was that?
That ended just over a year ago.
There's a recovery time for sure. And, I mean, I think that's why I'm trying to convert. I'm not really trying to, I don't necessarily want to date someone that's in a couple right now because, that was my first experience. And there were things that I was so new and I didn't understand anything, and I have only, and being in love like that, I don't ever care to love someone else like that again. Twice in my life, I'm good, man. You can have other relationships and you can be, but that intense fucking just, my God, it just fucks you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is so rare and it is so beautiful, but it is also it's intense. Yeah, it's intense, and if you can heal it, and you can, and it breaks your heart, right? So you felt that twice, and I'm not with either one of them women. Right. They're both alive, and that breaks my fucking heart every day. And I learned all these things, right? So I'm just gonna convert monogamous people. Maybe you don't know that you're not monogamous.
There you go.
Maybe you're just
tried it?
Right. Maybe you're just fed this ideal like we are in society.
No, I think that is a big thing because I've talked to people about exactly. That's why, because I've been a side girl, sometimes with their permission, sometimes with not their knowledge, And I know some people have an issue with that, and you can email me and yell at me if you want.
Or not.
I don't care. You call me whatever. I don't care. However, if you're the wife of any of those men, I probably don't want to hear from you.
Right. Right.
Or maybe we should talk.
Right.
I don't know. Either way.
Right.
I really feel like I'd say probably 98% of people who are supposedly monogamous aren't.
And it's that
just a
ethical
pretense.
part, right? It's that ethical part. Like, let's talk about things. And the lady I'm currently dating, she was like, hearing you talk and stuff, she was like, you would just think you slept with a whole lot more people than you actually do. And I'm like, I reserve the right to.
Right.
You know what I mean? For sure. And 10 years ago,
right,
it was a whole different thing. People get on my nerves now, and like, oh, you want to fuck me? Well, sure. I'm sure you fucking do. What else? What, give me something different. It's the approach. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a 38-year-old grown-ass woman. I have my own shit going on. It's not a compliment for someone to want to have sex with you. That's not a fucking compliment. You know what I mean? That's not a fucking compliment. But yeah.
Although sometimes it is convenient.
I mean, for sure. Right, for sure. But yeah,
don't tell me your name. You don't need
part.
to know where I live.
Right.
Let's get this done, and you can go.
Right.
Home.
Please don't even come to my. Yes.
Oh no, I don't take them to my house.
No, my house is my private space, and it's just But I reserve the right to. I think it's about experiences. The thing that I loved, like my ex, she encompassed this freedom. She introduced me to this freedom. The freedom has become more important to me. My freedom.
Okay.
The older I have gotten has become much more centralized as an important factor. Whether it's financial freedom or spiritual freedom or queer freedom or whatever the fuck, that's become really important to me. Like, and so the freedom that lifestyle can, and it's making me kind of a better person, because I used to be kind of shitty about things like, oh, I'm single, I'm gonna do it fun,
Right.
Like, that's a part of who I am. I'm B, and I tend to keep that bitch under control a little bit. You know what I mean? But sometimes I let her run wild, and
sometimes she needs that.
Yes, and hang on. That's just fun. That's what Pride turned in. Pride was Pride-ageddon. I dubbed this year's Pride-ageddon, because I just was all over the place making all sorts of. Just let her run wild sometimes, right?
Why is there not video of this?
Oh my God, I'm telling you. Thank God there's not.
Right?
All over the place, I'm telling you.
Okay, so the comment that I got
yes.
from someone the other day.
Yes.
We were watching reruns of Shameless.
Because I love that's me and my daughter's fave.
I love that show, and I've seen everything on Netflix, and I've been rewatching them. And
so good.
I don't remember. It was like a scene with, I don't know, it was probably with Ian and Mickey, because we had started back over. And he made a comment about, that's so gay, or something like that. I'm like, what?
Ew.
I'm like, well, obviously.
Right. Accurate.
Right, I'm like, it's too
They're gay.
So yes, that's exactly
pretty fucking gay.
And then I was,
like the definition of gay.
So then exactly, like, so then I started thinking, there for a minute I started thinking about, what you talked about earlier about men having the lesbian fantasy. And so I said, okay, so let me ask you something, because most men I know have this fantasy.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so is it different if it's two women?
Right.
And he said no. So he's one of the rare men who doesn't like that. Yeah. He's like, no.
He's gay, probably.
Probably. I should tell him that. I'm like, are you sure you haven't explored something?
Professional diagnosis.
and he's like, no, that's bad too, because it's just like gay.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
I can't. Yeah.
And so I'm like, so does it bother you that I've been with a woman? Which I don't think he knew up until that point. I'm like, does it bother you that I've been with a woman? He's like, let me put it to you this way. People can be gay all they want. I just don't want to see it.
Ew, I fucking hate that.
So, yeah, what is your response to that? 'Cause it's been a long time since I've heard that phrase, and I was just like,
yeah,
really?
That's interesting.
I didn't know anybody still said that.
Yeah, that's like, and exactly what I said in that post too.
Right.
Like, oh yeah. I think fuck off. I think that if I have to look at I think there's a couple of misconceptions. I think that one, and I was sitting in a graduate student classroom, so I was a grad student at the time, so where I'm with grown-ups-ish, and at OU, and there was this young man who always flirted with me, this young black man, cute guy, and we were fine, we were friendly and stuff, but I can tell I'm not dumb. And we were talking, and we were talking about gay, and we were talking, and he said, but am I wrong? If I don't, which, yes, probably.
Anytime somebody leads with that, I'm like,
yes,
I'm
probably.
ready to tell them yes.
Yes, you probably are. Am I wrong?
That's like the I'm not
That's
racist
the thing, but I'm not racist, but I'm not right? So am I wrong if I don't want my daughter to go to be at a gay person's house? So I said, yes, you are wrong, because you're confusing homosexuality with being a pedophile, right?
Oh, is that what he was worried
about? Right, so most pedophiles are
Oh.
straight, white men. Statistically, I'm not going to throw out a statistic because I don't have data to back it up, but like, you know, do some research. It's mostly straight people. You know what I mean? You're confusing that, right? Like, there's not a bigger
being gay
number.
Doesn't mean they want your child.
No, that's fucking gross. And you're confusing those two things. And I said second, and so then I told him.
That's like people who equate homosexuality with bestiality.
Right, that's two different. No, that's
different.
fucking stupid. And so I was like, you know, that's ignorant. That's ignorant, and it's just ignorant. And you should know better. It's ignorant. We should all know better. You know what I mean? And I told him, I was like, you know, I had my gay marriage wasn't legal when I was with my one of 7 years, but had it been that, I would have married that bitch because she was wrong all the time, and I'm sure at some point it would have been like a thing. And so, I mean, I wore her ring, she proposed, it was a thing, but it wasn't legal.
Right.
Good, because I would have been gay divorced by now.
Right.
But
They would have got you divorced.
yeah, they would have got
best.
me. Yeah, that'd have been bad. So, but he did. I was like, and his jaw dropped because he had no idea, because I don't quote look gay. You know what I mean?
I'm never sure what that means, but yeah.
But you do, like, and it's my privilege speaking too. Like, I can remember sitting at a bar with my lesbian, one of my homegirls, she's gay, and there was a woman that walked up that was masculine-ish, you know what I mean? It expressed herself differently, and so I'm just trying to get laid because that's where I live at life. And so she goes, that's what I'm thinking about, right? Right, I'm thinking about. So like, this woman walks up, and I tell my friend, I envy people that look like that. And sometimes your privilege gets checked, and you don't even realize it's about to, because you think that you're above that, because you think you recognize all your privileges, and you know, you're like enlightened and shit. And my friend turned and looked at me, and she said, you have no fucking idea what she goes through on a regular basis to be who she is.
That's true.
And I felt like a piece of shit because I'm just trying to get laid, and no, I didn't think about, like, you know what I mean, like how that woman, like, yeah, no, I can pass, you know what I mean, for a lot of different things, right? Like, I express my native self. I mean, the cheekbones for sure, you know what I mean, but I have green eyes, you know what I mean? I express my queerness, but you wouldn't look at me, I don't have it stamped across my forehead.
Right.
I have started to put it across my forehead. I've started to wear rainbow. I started to put out gay energy because I missed women, and I wanted women to know, hi, I'm gay, and no, I don't want to be your friend. I have enough friends, and like...
Yeah, that's not what this is.
No, that's not what this is. Let's be gay together. And
that's a good pickup line right there.
Right? So it's different, you know what I mean? But you have to recognize your privilege. And even when you think you recognize all your privileges, you probably don't. You know what I mean? And I got checked in the middle of a bar. You know what I mean? I got checked, and my ass got checked, and I recognized it, you know? Like, yeah, you're right. That was shitty, and she's cute, though. Like, let's get back to the topic.
Let's get back to this.
Right.
Are you available?
Right, yeah, I was being a douche. I'm sorry. Like...
You're like, point taken.
Right.
Yeah, can I get that number?
Right. Back to my mission, yeah. Yes, for sure.
You can contact the podcast at brokebrokenpodcast@gmail.com. The Broken Podcast can be found on Twitter at Broke Broken Show, on Instagram and Facebook at Broke Broken Podcast.